planet Earth. 4.5 billion years in the making, carved and shaped by the forces of nature. From the highest mountain to the deepest ocean, the ultimate global journey. Uncovering nature at its most spectacular. Earth Wonders. On this journey, we reveal the haunting beauty of the Namib Desert. A spectacular world of ice and wildlife in Alaska's Glacier Bay. Australia's ancient and mysterious monolith, Uluru, or Ayers Rock. The extraordinary meeting of the waters in South America's fabled Amazon River. And the gravity-defying rock formations of Utah's Arches National Park. But first, we head to California's Sierra Nevada and the majestic Yosemite National Park. One of the most visited and well-loved natural locations in the United States, Yosemite contains 1,000 square miles of pristine wilderness. Rivers and waterfalls, meadowlands and protected wildlife. But it's the dramatic granite cliffs rising thousands of feet from the valley floor that truly characterize this beautiful landscape. In 1984, it was declared a World Heritage Site. It's the Yosemite Valley in the center that forms the main focal point of the park. This is a 7-mile-long, 1-mile-wide area where a shimmering river twists through flower-strewn meadows dotted with clusters of redwoods, pines, and oaks. Sheer granite cliffs soar to the sky on both sides of the valley, like the walls of a vast stone cathedral. Half Dome is the park's most identifiable landmark and is possibly the most famous rock in North America. Rising to an elevation of nearly 9,000 feet and containing granite that is 87 million years old, Half Dome dominates the horizon. Many more of these vast granite monoliths grace the park, including the awesome El Capitan. During the wetter months of the year, spectacular waterfalls tumble from the roof of Yosemite Valley into the Merced River. Yosemite Falls drops a total of 1,750 feet, making it North America's tallest waterfall. The story of how Yosemite Valley was formed is written into the landscape. Although it contains granite 100 million years old, the valley took shape just 10 million years ago. As the Sierra Nevada mountain range started to uplift, it caused the Merced River to flow steeply westward, cutting deep channels through the bedrock. Then, 2 million years ago, the Ice Age had taken grip, and the region was covered in a giant glacier 4,000 feet thick. This huge mass of ice and rock moved down the old riverbed, gouging out the soil, cutting swathes through the boulders, creating a vast U-shaped valley. The rock debris within this frozen river acted like sandpaper, smoothing and polishing the hard surfaces as it glided along. It's that grinding force which has given Half Dome its distinctive rounded silhouette. The mountains nearby that were taller than the glacier escaped its erosive action and have kept their jagged peaks. When the glaciers receded 15,000 years ago, sediment gradually began to return to the valley floor. It formed soil and brought plant life, eventually forming the meadows we see today. Today's rich ecosystem depends upon the river which winds through the valley, providing moisture to the shrubs and deciduous trees. The wood and stone found in the valley have been used to construct its most famous building, the Ahwahnee Lodge. Built in the 1920s, this masterfully crafted timber and granite hotel blends into the surrounding parkland. Although the valley floor has transformed since the last ice age, the steep valley walls have barely changed and still bear their glacial scars. These dramatic, sheer cliff faces provide the perfect challenge for rock climbers. The summit of El Capitan is 3,600 feet above the floor of the valley and attracts climbers from all over the world. The grueling ascent takes 4 to 8 days. On the way up, these daredevil climbers have to sleep suspended in slings on the sheer rock face. Back in Yosemite Valley below, there's something stirring in the woods. This black bear, a 3-year-old female known as White 6, frequents the area and has been stealing food from unattended backpacks. A kind of real-life Yogi Bear in search of a free picnic. It's Park Ranger Jonathan Lewis's job to keep track of her and warn park visitors that bears may be after the snacks in their bags.
It's like this bag over here, or these bags, just know she could sneak in through here and grab one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go keep an eye on the bear right now.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Jonathan makes sure that today, this bear will keep a safe distance and find her own lunch.
Yeah, there she goes off into the woods.
There are many ways of actively enjoying the park. This could be the world's most beautiful gym. It's perhaps why people return again and again, making Yosemite the most revisited park in the United States. One of the park's more strenuous hikes ends with a spectacular view from Glacier Point. The entire valley floor can be seen, spread out over 3,000 feet below. From here, the Grand Ahwahnee Lodge looks tiny. And above, the high Sierras stretch off in all directions. Yosemite is a world that deceives because despite its serene appearance, it's not passive, it's not still. The geological faults that produced such dazzling beauty are still moving, lifting, and reshaping the landscape. All the while, the park continues to amaze visitors and will do for generations. As John Muir, the famous 19th century adventurer, wrote in his journal, Yosemite is by far the grandest of all the special temples of nature. Next on Earth Wonders, we explore the most famous rock of them all in Australia's dusty red centre. Australia is the world's oldest continent. Situated in the arid Northern Territory is the island's most famous geological wonder, Uluru, or Ayers Rock. Shaped over millions of years, this imposing monolith is often referred to simply as the Rock. Uluru rises over 1,000 feet from a sea of red sand. It covers an area the size of New York's Central Park and what has been called Australia's Dead Heart. But it is not dead. And Uluru is not alone. For within 20 miles stands another natural wonder, the Olgas, or Catachuta. To geologists, these rocks tell an epic tale of mountain building and massive erosion. Uluru is entirely made of sandstone, while Catachuta is a collection of different rocks. Yet they were born from the same powerful forces and are a part of the same huge underground geological formation. Almost 2/3 of Uluru and Catachuta still lie submerged, 4 miles below the surface. About 400 million years ago, when the inland sea that had covered Central Australia drained away, the land began to be transformed by powerful forces deep within the earth. A huge slab of rock buried below the surface started to fold and tilt, pushing mountainous blocks upwards towards the sky. Gradually, soft surrounding rock eroded away, leaving the much tougher rocks of Uluru and Catachuta intact. Close up, Uluru is weather-beaten, pitted with holes, gashes, and ribs. Flaky red patches cover the surface like a rough, textured skin. They form when water and oxygen cause minerals in the rock to decay. This process of rusting helps give Uluru its distinctive red coloring. For the first Australians, these rocks tell a story of the beginnings of time. Uluru and Catachuta were first named by the Aboriginal people who have lived here for thousands of years. They believe these sacred rocks were born in the time of creation, the dream time. Uluru certainly appears to have been magically conjured up, standing alone amongst thousands of square miles of barren red sand. A closer look reveals that this desert is in fact thriving and home to plants and animals perfectly adapted to survive the extreme conditions. In summer, the temperature can reach 140 degrees, while in winter, temperatures drop drastically. On warm winter days, reptiles sun themselves to keep their body temperature stable. The red sand is an excellent conductor of heat and perfect camouflage for the thorny devil, a lizard that eats only ants. It's not just the Aboriginal people who find wonder in Uluru. Since tourism began here in the 1950s, visitors have flocked to Ayers Rock, as it is also known, to marvel at the daily miracle of its sunset transformation. Over just a few minutes, the rock changes color dramatically. This mysterious change is caused by the effect of the Earth's atmosphere on the sun's rays. When the sun is low in the sky, the atmosphere acts like a giant prism, splitting the sun's rays into a color spectrum. At sunset, light from the red end of the spectrum bathes the rock in a fiery glow. And as the light fades, colors from further down the spectrum emerge. Within minutes, violet and purple melt into indigo blue, till darkness finally captures the ancient landscape. Despite their isolation, Uluru and Catachuta remain Australia's most recognizable natural icons and sacred sites for local people. These giant and mysterious monuments have dominated the landscape for millions of years. Coming up next on Earth Wonders, an amazing land of glaciers, whales, and bears, an untouched wilderness. In southeastern Alaska, one of the remotest parts of the United States, is Glacier Bay National Park. The size of the state of Connecticut, the park contains over 3 million acres of unspoiled wilderness, which until recently was covered by a vast sheet of thick ice. But in just the last 250 years, the ice has retreated, uncovering a stunning marine landscape. With abundant wildlife, mountains, and glaciers, and thickly forested islands. Glacier Bay itself is a beautiful expanse of water. Yet in geological terms, this 65-mile-long fjord and the land around it has only just been revealed. As recently as 1750, a 20-mile-wide river of ancient ice, 4,000 feet thick, filled this entire valley. A glacier is made up of snow that over thousands of years has compressed into large, thickened ice masses, covering the land below it. Most glaciers are formed in the much colder polar regions, but Glacier Bay is 500 miles south of the Arctic Circle. Here, slightly increasing temperatures over the last few centuries have caused the glacial ice to melt at a faster rate than new snow is accumulated. This has resulted in the glacier shrinking back. The Johns Hopkins Glacier, as it runs into the bay, still makes an impressive spectacle. More than a mile across, it reaches back 25 miles into the mountains. Its 200-foot-high face looms above passing vessels. The dark streaks in the ice are bands of rock fragments that have been ground from the valley walls by the creeping glacier. These layers are then folded and contorted by the huge pressure within the ice mass. 16 of these giant moving fingers of ice connect to Glacier Bay. From the air, they look like bright white highways. A 20-minute flight from Glacier Bay is the Mendenhall Glacier. A helicopter is the only way to reach the heart of this icy expanse. A team of hikers has come to explore. Although a glacier may look like a winter wonderland, it can be fraught with danger. Deep crevasses, large enough to swallow a human without trace, lie hidden on the surface. Walking on a glacier can feel like being on a mysterious planet, with vivid colors and crisp sounds. The striking blue color is caused by the millions of tiny ice crystals packed together.
Wow, that is amazing.
As sunlight strikes the ice, all colors of the spectrum are absorbed, except for blue, which is reflected back. Where the glacial ice is melted, it's possible to sip from a spring, as pure and refreshing a drink as you'll find anywhere on Earth.
And you had ice cream on your beard.
Throughout the glacier, wondrous ice tunnels have formed, created by wind and flowing meltwater. Glaciers are constantly moving, expanding, contracting, and breaking up, it's a process called calving. Chunks of ice the size of houses regularly break off, and with a thunderous crash, fall into the sea as icebergs. This can make Glacier Bay a treacherous place to explore. Picking his way carefully through the floating ice is a single kayaker. But he is not alone. Nature has provided a new sea channel here, which is a perfect habitat for marine mammals. Majestic humpback whales travel an incredible 10,000 miles, swapping their winter Hawaiian home for the cooler waters off the Gulf of Alaska. This is the only season when they feed. They'll rely on the reserves of blubber they build up here when they return to the Pacific to breed. Stellar sea lions, on the other hand, will look for a partner here on one of Glacier Bay's rocky islands. Summer is their mating season. A female can give birth every year for up to 25 years, and the pups are born right here on the beach. Sea otters, among the smallest of marine mammals, spend nearly all their lives in the water. They keep the cold out, not with blubber, but with their exceptionally thick fur coats. Where the glaciers have retreated, a new natural world has also emerged on land. As the climate has warmed over the centuries, a lush, temperate rainforest has grown up. Visitors can hike through a pristine wilderness of towering Sitka spruce, ferns, and moist fungi. Porcupines nibble the succulent leaves in the treetops. These thick forests and damp marshes also provide the perfect habitat for bears. Black bears are the most common in southeast Alaska, where as many as 17,000 live. Although smaller than a grizzly, they can still weigh up to 300 or 400 pounds and are extremely powerful animals. Although cautious and solitary, they can be aggressive and are best observed from a safe distance. The shifting geological landscape of Glacier Bay National Park has revealed a beautiful new world of sea and forest where wildlife now flourishes. Yet still, presiding over this vast and beautiful wilderness are the ever-moving walls of ancient ice. Next on Earth Wonders, an extraordinary African desert on a wild Atlantic coast. On the southwestern edge of the African continent, in Namibia, is the Namib Desert. This wild and unforgiving environment is a place of huge, shifting sand dunes, barren mountain ranges, and empty gravel plains. The vast desert, whose name in the local Khoikhoi language means place of no people, covers over 31,000 square miles and stretches for 1,000 miles along Namibia's fabled Skeleton Coast. But this landscape is far from lifeless. Despite the harsh conditions, a startling array of life can be found here, from bizarre ancient plants to sand-dwelling snakes and lizards, and large mammals. The Namib Desert is a stunning and surprising natural landscape. The Namib has remained arid for over 55 million years and is probably the oldest desert in the world. Its famous sand dunes can reach as much as 1,000 feet high. Together, they form an enormous sea of undulating soft sand that's visible from space. Incredibly, the great volume of sand is thought to have once been flushed out of the Orange River, further to the south, and into the Atlantic Ocean. It was then washed ashore by the strong surf along the Namibian coast and blown inland to form the huge dunes. It's the wind that gives the dunes their characteristic sharp ridges and steep, smooth sides. Rainfall here is scarce, averaging around ½ an inch a year, making this, statistically, the driest desert in Africa. Temperatures here reach heights of 140 degrees during the day, but can plummet to only 23 degrees at night. The Skeleton Coast, where the desert meets the Atlantic, is an even more haunting and forbidding place. Scores of bleached, half-buried wrecks are testament to the ferocity of the ocean that has claimed the lives of many seamen throughout the centuries and earned this stretch of land its macabre name. But the eerie coastal fog actually brings life to the seemingly sterile Namib Desert. In the mornings, cool ocean mists collide with the hotter desert air. This produces clouds of life-sustaining moisture that envelop the coastline and drift inland. Incredibly, 3,500 plant species are able to thrive here, having adapted over thousands of years to withstand the harsh conditions. The desert floor is also home to over 70 reptile species. The Namakwa chameleon slowly stalks the dunes in search of prey, such as beetles and other small insects. Its body changes color according to whether it needs to absorb heat or reflect it. Many of the snake species, such as the sand snake and the sidewinder, have mastered an ingenious way to traverse the soft sand. The fearsome-looking horned puff adder also moves in this way. The flipping, twisting sideways motion helps reduce the amount of contact with the baking hot sands. This venomous snake will lie in wait for victims, such as small lizards. Only when one is within reach will it strike to inject lethal venom. The plant life in this hot, parched desert provides for a variety of mammals, such as herds of springbok, and the symbol of Namibia, the graceful oryx. Most surprising of all is the population of desert elephants. With larger feet and ears than their more common cousins on the African savanna, desert elephants will travel up to 50 miles a day in the search of scarce food and water. They browse with great care, often grazing only on the regrowth of plants, rather than completely destroying them, therefore preserving a precious food source for the future. While these desert-adapted elephants number only 750, there is another mammal species in this region that occurs in huge numbers. Cape Cross has the largest brown fur seal colony in the world, with a population of well over 100,000. While at sea, the fur seal's main predator is the great white shark. But on land, the young pups are vulnerable to marauding hyena, jackal, and even lion. At one time, people came to this desolate region in search of their fortune. The Namib Desert is one of the richest sources of diamonds on the planet, but an extremely challenging environment in which to find them. Many of the old diamond prospectors' homes now lie empty, recaptured by the shifting sands. Most people who come here today do so for a different reason: to enjoy the extraordinary natural beauty of this spectacular desert landscape. Next, Earth Wonders travels down the world's most remarkable river and reveals some bizarre sights. Weaving through 6 different countries in South America, the legendary Amazon River stretches for 4,000 miles. The Amazon's wide river basin covers an incredible 40% of the continent. This mighty river flows through the Earth's largest tropical rainforest, the most biodiverse environment in the world, a place where remote tribes are still being discovered. The Amazon is an essential artery bringing life to a continent. Although the Nile is officially the world's longest river, the Amazon is its largest in terms of volume. It carries about 1/5 of the water that flows in all the rivers on Earth. The Amazon is not just one mega river. It's made up of over 1,100 tributaries. These begin as small streams of glacial meltwater from the Andes Mountains. The calm waters, continually fed by secluded cascades, gradually transform into wild rapids. Lower in the Amazon basin, Indian tribes like the Machiganga still live in relative isolation. The river is the lifeblood of the forest. Far from any roads, it's the main means of trade, travel, and communication for the people who live here. By the time the Amazon reaches the Atlantic Ocean, it widens into a vast estuary, over 110 miles wide. Here, it releases 20% of all fresh water entering the oceans worldwide. That's 10 times more than the Mississippi. It's during the South American wet season that the river is at its most awesome. For 4 months of the year, the Amazon is hit by torrential rain, creating an incredible surge to the already phenomenal amounts of water. At this time, parts of the Amazon are 120 miles wide. Water swallows up tens of millions of acres of rainforest, engulfing land up to 12 miles from the main channels. The dense forests of Amazonia make up half of Earth's remaining rainforests. Covering an area larger than the continental United States, they contain an unparalleled variety of plants and animals. 1/3 of all the world's species are found here. One of the strangest animals is the Amazon river dolphin, otherwise known as the pink river dolphin. These powerful fish-eating freshwater mammals can grow up to 7 feet long. The curious pink color is thought to be the result of blood flow in capillaries close to the skin's surface. A busy, vibrant city lying at the very heart of the Amazon is an equally unexpected sight. Manaus has one great surprise in particular. A magnificent opera house has been standing here for over a century. Built in the European style with lavish imported materials, it's the very opposite of the untamed natural world that surrounds it. Just outside Manaus is another mysterious spectacle. Here, 2 of the Amazon's largest tributaries, the Rio Negro, or Black River, and the Rio Salamos meet. The Rio Negro is the largest blackwater river in the world. Although close up, it looks more like the color of tea. This is caused by the presence of acids in the water, naturally produced by plants to repel plant-eating animals. The color of the Rio Negro is in stark contrast to the Rio Solomo's brown, silty flow, made all the more noticeable because where the waters meet, they refuse to mix. This is a result of the Rio Negro being colder, heavier, and slower than the Solomos River. For over 6 miles, the Rio Negro and the Rio Solomos run side by side, creating constantly changing swirling patterns. This extraordinary phenomenon is known as the meeting of the waters and is one of the most bizarre sights in the natural world. Eventually, they mix and become one, the mighty Amazon, the world's most legendary river. Next, Earth Wonders explores the incredible natural rock sculptures of America's Southwest. Located in the high deserts of Utah is the extraordinary Arches National Park. The most concentrated collection of natural sandstone arches in the world. Many of these beautiful, gravity-defying stone arches are huge, over 100 feet high and hundreds of feet wide. Towering spires, fins, and balanced rocks complement the arches, creating a remarkable assortment of landforms over a small area. Together, they make Arches National Park one of the geological treasures of America's Southwest. It's 6 a.m. With conditions perfect, a balloon crew prepares for takeoff.
See you later, guys. Thank you.
The gentle dawn flight reveals a curious landscape. Apart from the predictable flat desert plains, there are large areas where the ground looks like a raveled blanket. Bizarre long rows of ridges jut upwards. Smooth stone mounds lie in clusters. The key to how this land has been formed lies beneath it. Arches National Park sits on top of an underground salt bed which was deposited here 300 million years ago when seas flowed into the region and eventually evaporated. Over the millions of years that followed, huge amounts of sandy sediment covered the salt and solidified into rock up to 1 mile thick. This sandstone rock layer put great pressure on the salt bed below, causing it to buckle and shift, and in places, thrust upwards. This upward force created long parallel cracks in the sandstone. Over time, the cracks widened and the blocks of rock were rounded off, leaving rows and rows of smooth sandstone fins. Further millions of years of water and ice erosion have carved away areas of these rock fins, sometimes creating openings. Those with the right amount of hardness and good balance have survived as the famous arches. There are over 2,000 cataloged arches in Arches National Park. Roaming amongst them, it's impossible not to marvel at this rich collection of natural wonders. They range in size from 3-foot openings, the minimum considered to be an arch, to the magnificent landscape arch, measuring 290 feet from base to base. Spanning the length of a football field, Landscape Arch is the longest in the park. In 1991, a massive slab of stone fell from its underside, leaving it just a thin ribbon of rock. Looking just as precarious is the balanced rock, which sits on a pedestal 55 feet above the ground. It's deceptively heavy, weighing as much as 1,600 full-sized cars. Even so, it looks as though a strong gust of wind might send it toppling. There's no such problem at the enormous Double Arch. Resembling a vaulted cave, Double Arch is over 140 feet across. Technically, it's a triple arch, with one opening directly above and two more facing in opposite directions. It's the sheer scale of this set of arches that is so impressive. The north and south windows, side by side, resemble a pair of eyes and are often referred to as the spectacles. Only when these two arches are viewed individually does the effect of them as vast windows come into play. They perfectly frame the adjoining landscape, an ideal spot for a hiker's rest. In many ways, Arches National Park is an unusual landscape. There are no regular hills, peaks, and valleys. Instead, the rock formations have an almost random, biological, and muscular appearance, making them the perfect subject for visiting artists. When put to paper, the rock outcrops can resemble human figures. Other visitors opt for a more hands-on appreciation of the rock's contours. The dramatically weathered sandstone elevations make for some interesting and varied climbing routes. Each year, nearly 1 million people visit Arches National Park. It's a landscape like nowhere else in the world. The most famous arch in the park, certainly the most recognized and photographed, is Delicate Arch. Rising center stage from a smooth rock amphitheater, it's a striking image. The elegant, sloping curve, reaching a height of 52 feet, seems to defy the laws of gravity. At each sunset, a crowd gathers in front of Delicate Arch. The glowing dusk light creeping over its red sandstone is a breathtaking spectacle. Of course, in time, things will change again. All the arches here will eventually surrender to the persuasive forces of ice, water, and gravity, and collapse. But that's a long way off. For the time being, Arches National Park will remain the home of the world's most stunning array of natural rock sculptures. These are just some of the many geological treasures to be discovered as we explore the most extraordinary locations on our planet in search of Earth Wonders.